With everything happening in the news regarding statues being removed and things like that, I think it's important to break down the context of history and the importance of the context of history. Removing statues of Confederate leaders makes sense. Those are essentially traitors to our country. But removing the statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, I think that is more nuanced. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying this is something that we need to have a discussion about, and I hope that this video is going to help facilitate those discussions. The way that I'm going to explain that context matters is kind of odd, but I'm going to compare slavery to factory farming. Now, before you get very upset, justifiably, by saying that factory farms are the same as slavery, they're not. Clearly, they're not. But the mindset is something that I think is very important to understand. And here's what I mean. We all know that factory farming is disgusting. It is beyond disgusting. We know it is so terrible that laws have been passed prevent journalists from going in to report on what's happening in there right now. Journalists are not allowed to go into factory farming institutions. Again, I am talking about the massive factory farms with hundreds of thousands of pigs, chickens, cows, etc. If you don't know what's going on in there, it is horrendous. The way the animals are treated, the way that chickens have their beaks clipped off, animals are kicked and crammed into cages. It is horrible, horrible, horrible. And that is where we get our food. Now, I am not saying that farming is bad. I think small family farms are wonderful. I am a hunter and promote hunting. And factory farms are what many of us believe are necessary to feed the massive 320 million people living in America. But I think it's important to recognize that the necessity to have factory farms, because hunting and small family farms aren't scalable or aren't economically feasible for many people, those are the same arguments that the South, the Confederacy, used to keep slavery. They said it was a necessity for their economic survival. Now, I hear some vegans saying, well, let's just go vegan. But that is not as simple either. I have read and then actually talked to farmers that told me that when they run the combines through the fields and pick up all of the wheat and different crops used for vegan foods, that birds, crows, vultures, seagulls circle behind the combines to pick up all of the remnants of shredded ground nesting birds, rabbits, mice, voles, squirrels, even small deer that get chewed up in those combines. I've read even that a pound of beef actually kills less animals than a pound of wheat. Now, we might say that a cow's life is more valuable than a squirrel's. I think that we're getting into some tricky areas when we start going down that road. Perhaps being vegan is better than eating meat. Perhaps. I believe that the future will probably be in lab-grown meat. So they take cells from a pig or cow or something like that, and they grow into meat. So filet mignon made in a lab. It never had a brain, never had a central nervous system. And the response that I've gotten from my students and others is, ew, that's disgusting. That's so unnatural. But people are saying that as they're eating Skittles. Lab-grown meat is far more natural than Skittles. The way it processes in your body is better for you than Skittles. What I'm getting at is, it is quite possible that our great-grandkids look back at what factory farming was and go, that was so immoral and disgusting. And everyone participated in it, knowing it was immoral and disgusting, but we didn't feel like we had other choices. It's so much harder to go hunting or to grow your own garden. It's so convenient just to go to the store and get something packaged and produced. The arguments are very similar. We know it's bad, and yet it would be too inconvenient to do anything else. We need the context of history to go back and look in the past at how far we've come and understand the mindset behind people that were acting in ways that today we recognize as being repugnant. The norm to George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Teddy Roosevelt was just different than the norm today. We are far more enlightened. We have far more options. We understand economics better. I have a real concern that by removing certain statues or certain books or certain elements of the past, that we will forget the past. And we have answered so many important questions already. We have come very far. We have a long ways to go, but we don't want to go back and make the same mistakes again because we have forgotten the past. And part of what statues and books do, even of people who made mistakes, is we can learn from it. There are many people that are forgetting the Enlightenment principles. There are many people who are forgetting about first principles of John Stuart Mill and our founding fathers and these ideas that they don't understand, and we're ignoring those, and now we're going to have to solve the same problems that were solved hundreds of years ago. I promote that we have grace toward one another, we learn from the past, and we promote ideas to have a better future. Lab-grown meat and getting rid of factory farms is probably a good thing, and I think it's what's going to happen in the future. We can get started on that now and move forward. But the only way we can do that is if we deeply understand the past.